I'm going to go ahead and record this because I was asked to record it and I forgot to do so until now.
You're all good. Press, got it. Okay, keep going.
Awesome. So right now we are going to use this time to kind of embrace our inner wirings and explore our intersections. A lot of this sounds like mumbo jumbo, but I promise that there is a reason for it. So what is this workshop about? This workshop is ideally going to help you organize your thinking as it relates to your career search, or if you're in the starting points of thinking about what your next step is going to be, this session will hopefully help you out mapping that. So if you already know what your next step is going to be in your professional career, you know where you're going to apply, when you're going to do it, you've got your strategic game plan in place. The session is also for you. And you'll see that we'll focus on identifying personal experiences and themes that will help you build your story as you go through the interview process, creating resumes and writing cover letters. So during this session, we're going to focus on our strengths, identifying significant themes and moments in our lives, and kind of develop reflective thinking skills to strategically look to our past to help us outline our future. So this book right here, it was written by Catherine Brooks. So she is the director of the Career Center at UT Austin. So it references the seemingly innocent question that makes us feel nervous and makes us question if we made the right choice. What did you major in? You majored in what? What is that? And what are you going to do with it? So if I could hear from maybe two people in the room, 2 or 3 people, what are you majoring in? You don't have to give me context, just like, what are you majoring in? You can just shout it out.
I'm a finance major and FYCS as well. If anyone else, there's another FYCS major over there. What's everyone else? You can just say it. Someone else said architecture, if you can't hear. Psychology.
Cool. Okay, so we've got finance, FYCS, psych, architecture. So a good plethora of experiences and different functional areas and fields. And so the next question is going to be, what are you going to do with that? What's the goal? Why did you study psychology? So this question is basically going to be the foundation for your grad school search and for your job search process and interview process as well. So just a quick show of hands, because I can see you all. How many of you are are seniors and are looking to get your first full-time gig after this academic year?
There's 3 of us in the room that raised our hands.
Awesome. Yeah, I see through your hands. Okay, how many of you have never gone through the interview process before and have never submitted an application for like an internship or anything like that?
Also 3 other people raise their hands if you can't see.
Alrighty, cool. And who else is kind of like somewhere in between, like you've submitted a few resumes, had a few interviews, maybe have an internship scheduled along the line?
We got 1.
All right, cool. So kind of solidifying, I guess, like these answers is really going to help set you apart from other folks, since this tends to be the #1 question that folks stumble upon because they don't know what to say or how to frame it. So kicking things off with linear theory, you know, in society, there is this pressure that there is a set path. So get good grades in high school so you can get to a good college and pick a good major, pick your classes strategically so you can go to law school, to med school. Once you get to law and med school, do research, find your specific, area that you want to go into. And you have this entire outline that you created for yourself at 15, 16 years old. And this is the guideline that people tell you, like, yes, good, do not stray from the path. The path is good. However, the question assumes that this is the only path to follow, directly connecting your major to your career. So there is an obsession with linear pathing. So if you're a kid playing with a fire truck, you automatically want to be a firefighter. I'm sure you all probably have this experience where your parents would feel more reassured thinking that our paths would be linear from school to work and everything will just kind of work out seamlessly and smoothly. So for example, someone said, like, I'm studying psychology, so you're going to be a psychologist. You're studying architecture, so you're going to be an architect, because that is what we have been told. So this is very early 20th century thinking from the early 1900s. So during this time, America's economy sort of shifted from agriculture to industrial, and career tests were designed to match people's interests with potential vocations. So most folks pursued education to learn specific trade and assisted vocational or trade schools. So they studied to become teachers, nurses, mechanics, and that's sort of what they specialized in. So what we have here on the screen is an example of the linear theory of thinking and career progression. So it's a very simple, straightforward way of looking at professional development and experiences. So path A leads to path B. So if you major in art, you're going to be a cartoonist. If you, do dramatic arts, you're going to do something with the performing arts or theater or whatnot. With chaos theory, we kind of mix things up a little bit. So on the screen is a real list of what career paths can look like. And this is a list of the careers of recent college grads drawn from alumni surveys from 3 different institutions. So it doesn't really always line up to the traditional career path that I mentioned earlier. So the linear career path has not disappeared by any means, and it's not inherently bad. So many students that study engineering will end up to be engineers. But linear thinking can keep you from thinking broadly about what your options are and being open-minded to opportunities that, might make you not consider other options. So for example, when I was in undergrad, I did psychology, and I'm just like, alrighty, I'm doing psych. I'm going to be a clinical psychologist, and I'm going to work with kids, and I'm going to be basically a therapist. And now I work with student affairs and diversity and equity and inclusion initiatives in different universities. So not exactly the thing that I thought that I would be doing when I was a first year student in 2014, but here I am. So additionally, I'll be one of the first to tell you, in my career, I've never seen a job posting that has asked for a specific major. They tend to ask for experiences that tend to range in, like, whether it be marketing, experience with human resources, but they tend to give you a range, and more likely than not, they care about your practical experience as opposed to what specific degree that you have. So I don't know if that makes sense, but really take advantage of those involvement opportunities that UF has to offer, and really get those transferable skills in case, you decide halfway down the line, maybe I don't want to be a doctor, maybe I want to do something else. You do have those transferable skills in your back pocket to go off of. So when we're thinking about linear versus chaos theory, we've got Emily Wapnick's, like, multi-potentialities. So just a world of endless possibilities. So the linear thinking just assumes that there's one right career path, but multi-potentialities means that there are, multiple. So the linear career path is not gone, but chaos theory is starting to take over a little bit more. But chaos theory is anything but chaotic. It's complex, it's complicated. You have to get down with the nitty gritty and really think about all of your options and put yourself in situations or experiences that might make you feel uncomfortable, but ultimately they're going to challenge you to grow. And eventually you are going to find that order that's going to help you create that professional narrative. What is your story? What do you bring to the table? How do your experiences inside and outside of the classroom cater to what this goal is? So how do we find order? So through finding patterns and connections between your interests is the best way that we can find order. So we're going to do a quick activity. It is called the Wandering Mind Map. And the purpose for this is to uncover the most important factors in your life so far. So the intention is to step away, look at your life from a different perspective, and identify previously hidden themes and threads, and kind of begin to connect those dots, and brainstorm new ways of viewing and understanding your past, and make meaningful order of the chaos. This way, it can help you create a powerful vision of your future. For me personally, the main connections that I found with my different experiences, my goals, my passions, all of it was rooted in community building and relationship building. So it's very people oriented. This means that I know I want jobs that are people heavy. I don't want to be isolated doing research in a lab. I want to be talking to people, interacting with people. And that might not be the same experience for everybody, but that's something that I found throughout my experience. So for about 8 minutes on a blank sheet of paper, you're going to be thinking about significant events, people, classes, awards, activities, anything from your childhood to now. And what you're going to do is you're going to write them down on this piece of paper. Do not censor yourself. Anything that comes to mind is fair game. It doesn't have to be in any order. It does not have to be chronological. It does not have to be in order of importance. Literally, as soon as you think of it, write it down. It doesn't have to be detailed or sentences or paragraphs. It could be 1 or 2 words. And you can draw a rectangle or a circle around each of them to sort of keep them separate so you can keep track of the different, I guess, areas that you will be working in. So the activity might seem a little bit unusual and silly, but do your best. Again, no rules. And your map is always going to be a work in progress. You can add items to it anytime you want. You can also scrap it and start from scratch at any point that you want as well. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and give you all 8 minutes so you all can start working on your maps. I will give a 1 minute countdown and then we can touch base again. So does that sound cool with everybody? Can I get a thumbs up from the crowd? All right, awesome. All righty, enjoy your 8 minutes.
Really quick, could you go back to the last slide? Okay, and I guess you guys want to keep it on this slide? Yeah. Okay, keep it on this one.
Awesome, we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and move it here for some additional prompts. All right, we got 1 minute left. Alrighty, start wrapping up those thoughts. And great, awesome. So I hope that this activity was able to kind of get you all to think about yourself, your identity, and your experiences, not just as a student or a professional, but as a person as well, since those could be very intertwined. So now it comes time to find themes within those experiences. So look at your map and kind of look for those connections. What are some of the key themes or categories that pop up from the items on your map? So like I mentioned earlier, something that I found for me was that relationship, person to person connections. So for like around 2 to 3 minutes, draw lines between obvious links. So for example, they're different sports, if it's science, if it's specific skills or activities that you like. So taking that into account, kind of figuring out what are some of the themes that run throughout your life. And at the bottom corner of your sheet or on the back of your sheet, write down your top 5 themes that you find. If you can't find 5, that is a-okay. We're gonna have time like during the panel as you know, the alumni speak and you get to ask them questions and they get to share about themselves. You might hear them say something that could spark a thought, and then that could be a theme that you tend to like really identify with. So we'll do that for about 2 minutes. Alrighty, so if I could hear from 3 people, just sharing like 1 or 2 themes that you found.
I guess I can go first. So some themes that I noticed is that I really like to help and like volunteer and give back. So I wrote a lot of stuff about like mentorship and like all the volunteer stuff I did. And it kind of had a common theme of like working with other Hispanics and just helping them however I can. So that's a theme I found.
That's awesome. That is a really, like solid theme and place to go off of, especially when you get asked questions regarding that in like interviews. So like, what are some passion areas of yours? Thank you for sharing.
Anyone else feel comfortable sharing some themes they found? What was that?
Oh wait.
You can go, yeah.
I found like a common theme of just people relationship, like always like, wanting to just meet new people and just be in places where it's like a new environment.
Right. And then you raised your hand over there.
Yeah, mine is kind of similar to David's. I discovered that most of the points that I could, regardless if it's about someone that I admire, positions that I'm in right now, or positions that I want to get eventually, they all involve being very social, working with people.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. I don't know if you could hear the other people, but they said they found the common theme of like being social and working with other people and just building relationships.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I heard bits and pieces of it, and I think that is such an awesome thing to be able to like hone in on. If anyone else wants to share, you're also more than welcome to use this time and space right now to do so. I think the reason why this activity can be so impactful is, you can teach skills, but you can't teach passion. And when you really know what themes in your life you really identify with, it's gonna show in the way that you present yourself in interviews. And being well-versed in how you like articulate those passions, how you like articulate those themes is really going to help set you apart from other candidates, especially within that like face-to-face interview process. So let me check. Alrighty. With that being said, it is our panel time. So if our lovely panelists would be willing to turn on their cameras. If you are not a panelist, I kindly ask that you, if you can click like the hide non-video participants, that way the panelists are the ones that show up on the screen.
Okay, let me figure that out.
So in the little like 3-dot thingy in the corner.
Okay, so do you know how to do that?
Can we just like pin people?
I think we could just pin them, yeah.
So there is, like the little option where you can like click on someone's box and it gives you like a drop-down menu.
Oh, okay.
There should be an option that says hide non-video participant.
Okay, so Emily and me. So hide non. Oh, okay.
And so I'm assuming right now, Issa, Ellen, and I should be the only ones.
Yes, I have it on my phone as well, so that one should be off. And then I think I saw that Anthony joined the room, so when he turns it on, it should come on, and Edward as well. Yep, perfect.
Yep. Wonderful, cool. So we are waiting on Brian. So while we wait on that, if you all want to introduce yourselves really fast, and then we can go ahead and start with the questions.
Yeah, so everyone in the room, these are some individuals that are part of the alumni associate. Oh, come on. Why does that keep happening? Okay, sorry, the screen for some reason keeps turning off. The Association of Hispanic Alumni. These are all individuals that graduated from UF, and they're all doing amazing things in their life now. And so we're really appreciative that you all were able to come on the Zoom and speak to us and give us a little bit of background on your lives and how your experiences at UF contributed to where you are now. So just to get started, I would love if all of you could introduce yourselves, your name, what year did you graduate from UF, what was your major while you were here, and some of the things you were involved in while you were a student at UF would be great. So whoever wants to get started with that can go ahead.
How about we go Evelyn, Eddie, and then Anthony, and then Brian whenever he shows up.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Veras. I graduated from the University of Florida December 2018, and I was a health education and behavior student, and I'm currently a third year, oh my gosh, at the University of Florida Levin College of Law. And what else? What I was involved in. I was an ambassador for La Casita. I was on the e-board for Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm a sister of Gamma Eta Sorority Incorporated. I did a few things in student government, and what else? I worked at rec sports all 4 years, and yeah, that's me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eddie Geraldo. You can just call me Eddie. I am a social strategist at Wieden Kennedy, New York. For those of you that don't know, that's an advertising agency that's global, has 7 offices around the world. I graduated in 2018, spring. I was involved in HHM when I was there. I was like a comedy night director. I'm not sure if they have comedy night anymore, but that was an event that I did with my co-lead. I'm a brother of Sigma Lambda Beta International Fraternity Incorporated. I was the president for a time and on the e-board of that organization on campus. Still involved now as an alumni, but outside of that, I didn't have any or additional specific roles. I was MLP mentor, I believe. And I was also a Bailey Foundation scholar as well as a MFOS scholar. Yeah, I think that covers everything. God, I haven't talked about my college career in so long.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday. So my name is Anthony Black. I use they, them, or he, him series pronouns. And so currently I work for AIDS Action. I work for the AIDS Action Committee of Massachusetts, also partnered with Fenway Health over in Boston, Massachusetts. But before then, I graduated from the University of Florida in 2017. I focused on health science with a focus in public health. And then I went to graduate school in Baltimore for a graduate degree in public health. And yeah, when I was at the University of Florida, I was involved in MLP. I was a member of the fall class. And then from there, I became an MLP assistant director. I was also involved in Hispanic Heritage Month. I was also involved in dance marathon. So there's a lot to do as an undergrad. And I think all of that just really, really helped me to where I'm at today. And yeah, with AIDS Action Committee, I work as their social determinants of health data specialist. So I help manage a lot of their data management processes in regards to supportive housing programs. A lot of these programs help individuals find people living with HIV find permanent housing. And so I help manage a lot of that process. So yeah, happy to meet you all.
That is awesome. Thank you, all 3 of you, for introducing yourselves. And it's really cool to see how, even though you graduated a couple of years ago, we're all still involved in all of those things that you were involved in. To see that that connection is really cool. And so I guess I'm going to go straight into some of our panel questions. And so our first question is for all 3 of you. And it's just,
wait, Brian's hopping on.
Oh, Brian's hopping on. Perfect.
Brian, turn your camera on. Whenever you, yay, great. Hi, King. Do you want to introduce yourself? Actually, Isa, you're the one who did the blurb better. Go ahead.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay. For some reason, if you didn't know, we're in the casita. So hopefully one day you guys will be able to come in to the casita. It's really, really cute and super techy. And so we just keep having technical difficulties though. So What the heck? Okay, so hi Brian, thank you so much for joining. So the other three panelists just introduced themselves. So their name, where are they currently at, what year did you graduate, what was your major while you were at UF, and then also what were you involved in while you were a student here?
Okay, dope. So my name is Brian. I graduated from UF in 2019, and right now I'm in San Francisco, California, and my major was computer science, engineering, and what I was involved with. I was a orientation leader, and I also worked with the Dean of Students, and did some stuff with the Hispanic community as well. And then that's all I'll say.
Well, awesome. Really great to hear about your experiences as well. And right before you hopped on, I was just thanking all the other panelists for giving those experiences and letting us see like how we're still all connected through our past experiences. And so we're kind of going straight into the panel questions of now that you graduated, you're in your careers, how do you feel that being a UF student prepared you for searching for jobs when you graduated? And how do you feel like your experiences and just being at UF prepared you for post life of undergrad? I know it's a really like tough question. Whoever wants, it's open to all four of you.
I can go ahead and answer first. So I think I had a little bit of a different experience like after graduation. So I always knew I wanted to go to grad school, but I wasn't sure I wanted to go right away. I wanted a little bit of experience. So even though I knew I'd end up in law school at some point, I still went through the motions of like career showcase and doing all those things just to see like what was out there and like what I could land. And I could definitely say that on the non-legal route, when I was applying to like different consulting jobs and things like that, I think being a student at the University of Florida really helped me stand out. And I have a lot of friends that go to school at different universities, and I think that the way that we go about our involvement culture is just like chaotic. And we are like naturally just ahead of the curve because we're crazy. So I think it did help a lot because they would just look at my resume and be like, how did you like what? Like how did you do all this? But I thought I was like normally involved, but apparently that wasn't the case. So I think it really helps. And then as far as like on the legal side, when it came to law school, and once I was in law school, like applying for different positions and stuff, and even, you know, getting the job that I have now after graduation, being a student at UF definitely helped establish those connections. I was also involved with an organization called Florida Blue Key. I think that Florida Blue Key, like people see that on my resume and automatically they're like, whoa, like, how did you get in? Like, what did you do? Or like, oh, I was tapped in this year. And it's like cool to be able to connect with people that see something on your resume and can like, I guess like relate to it. And then I will say, the firm that I'm working at, the lady that like interviewed me and like got me basically like through the door was the past president of the Hispanic Student Association at UF, of the Alumni Association. And she was a sister of Lambda Theta Alpha. And our connection being a part of the Multi-Greek Council, and then her seeing my resume and being like, oh my gosh, when I was at UF, I did all of this too. That I think I would have never had that connection, and I probably would never have this job lined up after graduation if I hadn't been a part of Gamma Eta or been a part of like MGC or all these other things. So yeah, that's my spiel.
That is awesome. If any of the other panelists want to kind of chime in on how they feel going to UF kind of prepared them for after college life.
I can go. I think the cool thing about involvement at UF is that it's really a space where you can really experiment and you can really program events that are meaningful to you and your community. And I think also it's the process of messing up that I think really teaches you valuable lessons. So like when I was in HHM, I messed up. When I was part of MLP, I messed up. And I'm so thankful for those mistakes. And I'm thankful for the collaborative energy that those organizations gave me, because it taught me that collaborative communication processes that carries over to my job today. I think that it's important to recognize that no one gets things right the first time. People are going to mess up. And I think now in this period of time that is your undergraduate career, you can mess up. You can decide what is your passion. You can decide what you want to do and how to collaborate with other people. And I think those soft skills of being able to bounce back after a huge mistake, being able to adapt and say, well, maybe the budget doesn't fit this item. Can we figure out something else? I think being able to problem solve and critically think about what you want was the biggest lesson that I took from involvement, was that like, you have to be able to adapt and you have to be able to see, like, given your circumstances, given what you have available, what is the best decision that you can make, not only for yourself, but for your team members as well. So that's what I would take away.
Yeah, and to build off of that, especially with like mistakes and those being some of the biggest lessons, I want to say UF, like going to UF for me was about finding out that there are things I just don't really like and trying them out. And then things that like I'm either passionate about or have a deeper interest in. With the involvement culture at UF, like some would say it's pretty toxic, and everyone's laughing because I mean you inherently get it, right? It's this idea that like you have to be involved in something all the time at all times, and while the mental exhaustion is not the best, I would say that like it definitely helped teach me how to like use those experiences both on a resume or like when I'm talking about myself or giving a first impression, let's say, like when we talk about interviews or landing a job and everything. When you start to see the amount of things that you've tried to be a part of or have been a part of, the amount of swings that you've taken, so to speak, compared to a lot of other people, similar to Evelyn's point, you start to get this like confidence within yourself because it's like, all right, I'm already ahead of so many other people. Now I need to kind of find the path for myself. And I will say that I missed mentioning, I studied advertising, but I started off in the marketing and business college. And I was a part of the agency in the J school. I don't know if any of you are a part of that, but what another thing you have taught me was like the value of proximity and network. And that ultimately, yes, I went to class. Yes, I graduated, I did good. But the relationships that I established while on campus is what is the main contributor, let's say, to my success now, and not the other way around. No one, to Valeria's earlier point, no one looks at your degree that you studied when they're looking. They just want to know you went to college. So the biggest benefit is like finessing yourself to be in close proximity to the types of people you either want to be like or want to keep connected to once you know you've graduated and etc. And that is the through line, you know, through most things. Florida Blue Key is a perfect example as well, where like that network can now pay so much more dividends in the future. The agency for marketing, certain clubs and like other Greek life affiliates and organizations for business and etc. So long-winded answer, but getting where you fit in and, you know, get your face out there, make strong connections.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Something that I've heard a lot in some of my clubs in the business school is your network is your net worth. The more people you know, the more ability later on for you to be able to develop those connections and it leads to an opportunity later on. So I love that. We're going to kind of shift gears into individual questions. So Valeria gave me a little bit of background on each of you. So I'll ask you kind of specific questions on your experiences and how that's kind of contributed to who you are today. So the first one's going to go to Brian. So hope you're ready. So how was the experience of getting an internship abroad? And then how do you think that's impacted you now?
Yeah, so a little bit of context. After my first year at UF, I did an internship in Madrid and I worked at this tech startup there. And so I was doing some web development and how it basically worked is that like I wanted to do a internship that summer, but since it was after my first year of college, I didn't have too much experience, but I wanted to like get that experience on my resume, and then being able to like also combine that with trying to also do something abroad. And so I looked up international internships and gone through like just multiple different processes to get that. And what I really learned from the whole experience of doing this whole internship abroad is just like how to work with people that are outside of your innate like American culture of like what is it means to be like working in like what you grow up working and what you think about what work from 9 to 5 job in America and capitalism and corporate America is very much like ingrained in your mind from when you move here or when your parents tell you like this is why we moved here for you so that you can do this. And so it kind of like humbled me in a sense of like don't think that your life is your career and that you need to like spend your entire like life after college worrying about the job you get and then saving for retirement. And I think the biggest like experience I learned from that is how people outside of America take their job seriously, but they don't make it their life. And I learned a lot about how I can make sure that I balance my life and my work, and like trying to do that now with my full-time job and being able to not let it overtake my career, especially, or my life, especially now that mostly we're all like working from home. And so you can get very caught up in like trying to work till like 8 p.m. or whatever, or like late at night, but then you have to like check yourself and realize that you need to take time for yourself and be able to not just go with the system believing that you need to like work overtime just to like make an impact.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, especially that international experience. I know many students, at least at UF, have always wanted to do some kind of international experience. So I really appreciate that input that you gave. So the next question is going to go to Evelyn. So I received some background that you kind of started off as health and then you transitioned into law and you had various DC internships. So I just wanted to know how was it completely switching fields in your career path? Earlier, we did a career map here. Valeria did an amazing workshop. And so right now we're all just trying to figure out what we want to do with our lives, and just knowing that it's okay to completely switch out of nowhere. And because that's your path, we just would love to know how that went around and how did you make that decision?
I like that question. Shout out to Valeria for just knowing all of us. But yeah, so I actually came into college like with a pretty like set mentality that I wanted to be a policy expert in health, and I thought that I should be a doctor because that's what I just grew up thinking I needed to do to be a policy expert. And I did a bunch of internships. I always like worked and like interned at Shands. I was like deeply invested into this medical career. Like I was heavy into health. And I did an internship actually with a doctor, and she was a lawyer before she became a doctor. And everyone has always told me like I should be a lawyer, because I like to argue and I like politics. But I never really took that career seriously just because I was like, well, I'm going to end up in policy anyway, and you don't need to be a lawyer to go into policy. But then I was like, why am I trying to be a whole doctor if I already know like I just want to be on the Hill? So I always battled with that. Like, what should I do? What should I not do? And it wasn't until I had that internship with that doctor that happened to be an attorney before she went to medical school that I was like, wait a minute, like, I I don't have it in my heart to go and like practice medicine. I have it in my heart to like fix these like broken systems and institutions and like do something about it. And while yeah, being a doctor could get me there, like what's the most expedient way that I can get there, and where am I going to learn the skills that I need to be a good advocate if I ever do want to end up on the Hill or in a different organization or a nonprofit or what have you. So that was kind of my, train of thought. And then it wasn't until my junior year, literally like halfway through my junior year, that I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to switch. Like I didn't switch majors until junior year. And I think it's funny because everyone's always like, no, it's too late. And I was like, it's quite literally never too late. I took the LSAT my last semester of college, which was, I took a victory lap. Like I was supposed to graduate in May and I didn't graduate until December. And I didn't take the LSAT until November of 2018. And I graduated a month later. So law school is one of those cool things where like, you don't have to think your whole life that you're going to be a lawyer. Like you don't have prereqs you have to take. You don't have to do anything besides just take the LSAT. So for me, it was just kind of like, okay, like, I guess I'm doing it. And once I committed, I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I took that 9-month gap and I worked, I went to DC and I worked for a lobbying firm, and, I got to see the dirty side of DC. So now I don't know if that's exactly where I want to end up. So my goals have shifted a little bit, but I'm happy with my decision and where I ended up. And I feel like a lot of my peers around me in law school also had really similar switches, where they went from like a completely different career to then being like, okay, I want to go to law school. So I think a JD now is kind of like an MBA. Like it's a very good degree to have. You don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to take the bar. You don't have to use it in that way. But yeah, that's pretty much my story.
Awesome. I think that's very valuable advice, considering I know many people are very interested in being pre-law, but they don't necessarily know what they want to do. So it's really great hearing about that experience and how it's okay to switch and to not know exactly what you want to do with your life. So I really value that information. Now we're going to switch it over to Anthony. Okay, I saw your excitement, so yay. So the question for you is, what was it like going straight into graduate school, and how has graduate school helped you in your overall career goals?
Oh, wow. As Beyonce said, that's a great question.
Wait. No, sorry. This connection is so weird. So right when you said something good, like it went away. So say it again. Okay, say it again. Sorry.
I said, as Beyonce said, that's a great question. I think honestly, I would echo what Evelyn had said earlier, and like really take your time if you want to go straight to grad school, because it's a commitment, right? If you are taking out loans, you're taking out student loans. The coursework is just at a different speed. But I think honestly, what was the question again?
So how was going straight into grad school, like how did that impact you? And then how has it helped like your overall career goals and like what you plan to do with your life?
I think it really opened the door and really reified that public health is like the place for me. I think in public health, one of the frameworks that they teach us is that you can look at things at the interpersonal level, you can look at things at an institutional level, and then you can look at things at a societal level. And I think ever since then, that's the way I've looked at social justice issues. That's the way I've looked at the way that I navigate things in my own life. And I think honestly, that framework, and like it's easier to go straight from undergrad to graduate school because you're used to that school framework, you're used to navigating things in an academic path. But I think honestly, it might have been really difficult to then transition into full-time work, because then it taught me a lot about how do I manage my time, how do I navigate different parts of my life. So I think there's pluses and benefits. I think if you're really, really certain, go for it. Like apply, see if UF has dual degree programs as well, because there are some of my peers that went straight into a graduate degree program from their undergrad. So I think there's a lot of flexibility. And I think also there's a lot of room for you to study what you wanted. So I focused on queer and trans health and focusing on HIV. There's a whole bunch of different ways to look at those specific issues, and with a bunch of different lenses. So I think for me, at least, graduate school like really opened the door to what it is I wanted to study further and further refine my content area knowledge about what I want to study.
Awesome. That's a really great answer, because I know, like, for me personally, I have no clue if I want to go straight into grad school or take a little bit of time. So really appreciate that. And I'm a senior, so that hopefully I'll figure it out soon. Hopefully we'll see. And then Eddie, our next question is for you. So in your line of work, where do you get your inspiration when it comes to creating your work? And if you can tell us a little bit more about your career, and then is the inspiration for creating your work different than when you were an undergrad? So is there a difference now that you're in your career compared to when you're in undergrad? I don't know if you could hear me.
Give me 1 second. So
Yeah.
where do I get the inspiration, right?
Yep.
And then a little bit about my career.
Yep. And then how
And is it
your
the same?
inspiration? Yeah, is the inspiration different or the same now from undergrad?
Okay. Yeah, I had to write that down so I can make sure I answer all three.
Yeah, sorry. My questions are like super, super detailed, so my bad.
Nah, it's all good. For everyone in the room, life hack, business hack, career hack. When someone's talking to you and you want to make it, look like you're really invested, jot a couple notes down in front of them, and you're good to go. First gen. Now, to actually answer the question, I want to say, well, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do, how I got there, and then I'll be able to answer better, like where I get the inspiration from / whether or not it's different. In school, started off in marketing. It felt like a sweatshop / a bunch of clones being made in the business school. And I'm not with that. I like marketing, telling stories, and ultimately being able to convince people or like understand what it would take to make someone believe something the way I do, or see the vision in my head. Didn't really know how to apply that, and then I found advertising. Advertising is basically the art of selling, and what I do, a part of that overall ecosystem, is social strategy, which is exactly what it sounds like. Developing strategies to make things shareable and hopefully viral on the internet. And I say the internet, not just social media, because as a social strategist, you kind of have to think of the world as like through the connections that we all have that both entertain us, educate us, enlighten us, and everything else, connect us to others, etc. So when I'm thinking about how to address a business problem or a brief, the inspiration for the ideas usually comes from a combination, or even I would say more of like a formula of a little bit of sauce from like what I'm seeing in culture, a little bit of what I personally feel, and then a little bit of what I've seen like data wise, and what I've read up on, and ultimately where I've been able to kind of put myself in terms of seeing the world the way another person does, understanding a topic the way another person does, and etc. So like changing my point of reference. It's complete. I mean, yeah, I would say it's completely different than when I was in college, but not in a way where they're like at 2 points of an opposite spectrum. It's more like I was at one level in college and thinking along the right path. And then as I got more experience working and trying to solve problems, and then also, again, to Anthony's earlier point, failing multiple times, or sitting there and having to admit like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, or I don't know how to address this problem. that helped me kind of start to gain even more points of reference to come up with different cool creative ideas. So yeah.
So sorry, it kind of broke up for about a good 10 seconds there, so we didn't get to really hear the end of that amazing answer. So if you could. Sorry,
yeah.
repeat it. I'm so sorry.
I was at one level of the skill set that I wanted to achieve, and then just failing constantly, not knowing, like, and having to admit to myself and both others, being vulnerable, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want the help, I want to learn, help me kind of get to a whole new level where I could at will pull inspiration from a bunch of different things. And I think just being inspired in general, like, it comes easier with practice time and experience, in the sense of like trying new things and purposefully changing up your point of reference. If you surround yourself with an echo chamber of the same stuff, of the same opinions, the same values, it's going to be really hard, at least in my line of work, to be able to tell intricate, complex, and meaningful stories, because you yourself as the storyteller don't understand the nuances for all the different people that might be hearing your message. So
I love that answer. I even wrote down changing your point of reference, because it's so important to, if you just move a bit just in your mind, your way of thinking, you can see things from a whole new perspective. So I absolutely love that answer. And then now we're going to take it back to one last full panel question, and then we'll open it up to the audience to ask questions. And so this question kind of relates back to our workshop earlier on career planning. And so in regards to the way you looked at your life and you looked at your career post-graduation, how has it changed, or how has it stayed on the same path, or do you plan on even changing your paths? Because right now, we're all in undergrad. We don't know what we want to do. So did you feel like that? Do you currently feel like that? I know my questions are always really long, but yeah, if you could kind of go about that. Any of you are welcome to take the question. Don't all volunteer at once. It's okay.
Wait, can we get the question again?
Yeah, for sure. I know. Basically, when you're planning your career and like looking at your life post-graduation, are you at where you thought you were going to be? Or do you not know where you want to be even still post-grad? Like, because we're all undergrad and we're all so confused, I feel like, on what we want to do with our lives. And so just career planning and what we want to do is very tricky. So yeah.
I can go because I feel like I'm in the middle of like whatever I'm calling my career shift, but I think there's a common misconception that like you have to have it all figured out and the job that you have is the one that you have to stick with forever. And I literally I didn't think I would go into public health data. I thought that I was going to go into like direct service, but it really there's no right way to choose your career path. There's no right way to go about things. There's no right way to find your path forward. And I think that's important to instill, is that everyone has their own timeline to get where they're at, and that can constantly change depending on whatever phase of your life that you're in. I thought I knew everything when I was leaving undergrad. I thought, I'm going to grad school, I'm going to go change lives, like blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I got to grad school, it hit me in the face. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And I think, to Eddie's point, my frame of reference changed. My who I was talking to, the experiences that people were giving to me, I was able to see that there was so much more than just the UF bubble, or just so much more than the Florida bubble. I was able to see that, oh, I can pursue a career in law, I can pursue a career in medicine. I can see that there are people that go to college and then further down the line decide that they want to change things up. I think it's okay. I think that a change or a decision to make a change implies that you messed up or that you did something wrong. And that's not necessarily the case. That all the work that you did before then is not lost because it helped inform the decision that you're making then. So I think that it's good to reframe that as for me, I'm currently in a job process of switching over to policy. That's something that I hadn't considered before. And that's something that grad school helped me figure it out because I wanted to work in health policy and law. So I think that it's important to consider that you can switch, like no one, like nothing bad is going to happen. Like it's important to recognize that you have time to think things through and like be able to make that decision should you want to. I don't know, that's a long-winded way of saying like everyone has their own timeline and it's okay if yours takes time.
I think that was that was a perfect answer. I love that answer. If any of the other three of you would like to give any advice or like add on to that as well.
I was gonna say, Anthony and I would always talk about this in undergrad, but I feel like you have to see yourself as like you're in constant evolution. Like you're not supposed to stay the same. And if you're staying the same, then you're not doing what you love, because when you love something, you're constantly questioning it. And if you're not, then you're just, I don't know, you're going with the flow, and that's maybe not the greatest thing to do. So I mean, if
Brian's message, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like if you're trying, if you're really like, if you see your purpose in this world is like, you really want to make a change, or not even make a change like in the world, but like you want to matter, you want to do something impactful, something that like gives you satisfaction, then you're gonna constantly be changing, because you're never gonna be experiencing the same things every month or every day. So for me, it's like you just have to start seeing yourself and like your purpose in this world as like beyond labor, beyond a job, beyond a title. Like who do you want to be as a person, and how are you going to get there? And right now I'm like, okay, I feel really challenged in commercial litigation. I think that sounds cool, but in the back of my mind I'm like, I still want to go back to health policy. I still want to go maybe one day like be on the Hill, maybe be an advisor. Some days I'm like, I want to be on the news, like I want to be a CNN like reporter. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? So I think it's perfectly fine to always just like be wondering like what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And I don't think that once you get to your dream job, you're gonna be like, okay, I made it. Like I don't think you ever get to that point where you're like, oh yeah, I made it. You know, you're always going to be in constant evolution, and you should be happy with that. Like that, at least my philosophy and how I see the world is like, if you're not questioning yourself, then you're not really doing your best and you're not doing what you love.
That's an awesome answer. There's people snapping in the room. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's great. Eddie turned off his mute, so I think you want to answer next too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's hard to follow up Evelyn's answer, but I'll try. I want to say that I definitely think now more than ever, linear is not necessarily the way to go, or like to think of it as I know exactly the trajectory that I'm going is a bit more tough, because depending on what you want, right, or the things that you want to create for yourself, you might have to either be faced with certain like decisions, or be forced to kind of step out of your comfort zone, or step out of the original lane that you had intended to get that thing, or to get to that place. A prime example is like just understanding the general business like or employment field, excuse me. You earn a higher salary by jumping around instead of staying at a place for a long period of time, right? So if you're more interested in creating wealth for yourself, or like providing for your family and XYZ, you want to get there quick, then now all of a sudden you have this this company that you like and stuff, but like you're at a certain pay rate, and unless you leave or what have you, you're not going to get to like that next step. So that's one piece that constantly, for me at least, is putting my trajectory in flux, because it's like, okay, there's these things I'm interested in and want to do, but there's also this experience that I have that I should get paid for. And then there are only these but so many companies that either have the resources to pay me for this experience and this or this expertise, excuse me. And they might be doing some different things, or it might be a management role, like managing people. So what I would say is like, focus on the impact, the intent, right? Like the end goal, the thing that you want to create or make for yourself. And use that as kind of like a guide for the whole like in between journey, and understand, to Evelyn's point, that one, you'll be in a constant state of flux and evolution. And so the journey will take turns and pivots and all this other stuff. But the end goal can remain the same constantly. If that is the North Star, the guiding light, just be confident that you'll get there, and make decisions that allow you to have the space to either question it or constantly reassure yourself that, yo, I'm on the right path, even if it wasn't the original path. So
I love that. That was very deep. Brian, you can go ahead too.
Yeah, so after hearing a lot of these answers, I feel like mine is pretty different, because I came into preview doing computer science engineering, and I stuck to it to literally graduation, and I graduated and haven't changed once in my major. And then I moved to San Francisco and became a software engineer.
Wait a second. So sorry. Okay, the last thing we heard is you didn't change a bit, and then it went off again. So go again. So sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I came into preview, I did computer science engineering, and then I graduated, and I never changed my major. Then I moved to San Francisco and became a software engineer. And it's probably the most linear path that you could really find. But I would say, like, long story short, like, it wasn't as easy as it seems when you just say it. The journey to get there had a lot of doubts, because especially when it comes to engineering and being in STEM, you don't find a lot of people like you, especially a person of color, in those fields. And when I walk into these rooms, and engineering is a very hard field, that it can be very intimidating when you walk into these big auditoriums, especially at UF, and you see all these people, and none of them really look like you, and you don't really have anyone around that you feel that you can relate to, in a sense. And a lot of the times when I came into these rooms, I felt like I wasn't there for the same reasons as a lot of these other people that have probably learned coding since they were in middle school. And like, for me, I had a very different purpose. I wanted to do computer science because I wanted to help provide technology and internet access, and being able to give innovation to people all around the world that aren't able to have access to internet, because technology can revolutionize your life, and being able to help any marginalized community is the reason why I got into it. And the reason how I found, or why I stuck to my major, is because I found people that had the same passions as mine, and found those few people of color that were in the room, that were in MLP and preview staff and all these other organizations that were similar to me, that were also computer science and technology, that were like, made me realize that I'm not alone. So don't ever believe that you are alone. There's always people around you. You just got to find those people, and see people that have similar passions as you. And if you really believe that this is something that you want to do, just find people that align with that, and know that you're not in this journey alone. And that I still talk to people from UF that are in my major that graduated with me, and all the people I sat with at my graduation were people from my MLP class, actually from freshman year. And so it's like really crazy to think about like the journey that I got to get there. So
I love that. Really appreciate all four of you answering the panel questions. And now I'm going to open it up to the people in the room. If you have any questions, I feel like, you know, these are people that were in our shoes very recently. And in the next few years, we're going to be probably maybe sitting on a panel just like this and answering questions for other undergraduate students possibly. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know someone in the chat, I believe she asked about research opportunities. If any of you had participated in research opportunities, if you know If you could give any experience on that.
I mean, I did research. I'm just like a body without, or a voice without a face right now. Are we talking about the question in the chat regarding finding research opportunities?
Yeah, because everyone in here is not on the chat. They're all in person, so they couldn't see it. So
Yes.
I just want to briefly
Perfect.
mention.
Yes. So Emily asked, how do we find research opportunities? Not sure why those are necessary and who it's most important for in terms of majors. Eddie suggested approaching to a professor. He approached his sophomore year, and he's the reason he got the internships that allowed him to do the work he's doing now. Asking if when you speak to your professor, do they tend to be major specific internships? And more likely than not, yes, if your professor specializes in something, chances are that the connections they will be a part of are going to be relevant to like that experience. Someone who works in higher ed and academia, I can confidently say people are going to sell this narrative that like research is always good, and it is, but unless you see yourself going to a grad school program where you will be going to either medical school, graduate school, law school, or pursuing a PhD, you can go without research. If you want to pursue a higher like degree education, like if you want to get a doctorate, if you want to do research in master's level work, definitely getting research as soon as possible is the move. I was involved with the lab my freshman and sophomore year of undergrad, and I hated it. So I switched career paths. So it's also a great opportunity to see if you even like the topic that you're going to be researching. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know if like Eddie, Anthony, Evelyn, Brian, if y'all agree or disagree. I know people who never touched research and they are absolutely thriving, the same way that I know folks who their entire involvement was research and they're thriving as well. They just chose different paths.
I think it's career focused. There are some, at least like that I know of, some of my friends that did research, they were all going to med school. I never touched research in undergrad. I didn't start doing research until law school. And it was because like that's something that you do with professors here to improve your writing skills. But I never touched research. I will say that like what I do think everyone has to do is internships. Like I'm not so certain about research being applicable to every career, but internships are probably the number one thing.
Quickly touching on that, the people that are in the room, how many of you have had internships or are currently looking for internships? So, okay. So I guess turning that really quickly for our last question to the panel, how do you find a job? Like, how do you get a job when you graduate? How do you find an internship? Like, very important questions.
I'll go. I'll start for once. What Valeria said, network. I think it's a lot easier said than done, but in every major and every career and every path is very different. But I think one of the best lessons I learned when it came to finding a internship and then a career is that like, don't be afraid of rejection. And it took a lot of rejection to get to where I am today. And I knew I wanted to work in Silicon Valley. I knew I wanted to be a software engineer. Like that was my dream. Like I grew up wanting to be in tech. And the amount of times I got rejected from multiple different companies before I got here was obscene. And I tell you my path, like I said before, where I am now, but the amount of rejections that it took to get here is a lot. So just understand that for every rejection, it's just an open door to something else. You might have heard this a lot, but like, it is true. And especially in like a high intensity field, you may feel that you are one of a million, but don't count yourself out. And a lot of the times people do because of imposter syndrome. And so believing that you can find your way there, and if you put in the time and the effort, you will. A lot of the times when it came to me finding my internship, it's about meeting people from different outside of the University of Florida through other organizations as well, because I was in a program called Code 2040, which is basically a nonprofit helping people of color get into tech. And so don't limit yourself into just your network at UF as well, as what I would say. And I got my internship and then my career because I was in a national undergrad engineering program. And so I think it's about making sure that when it comes to these interviews, don't be afraid of rejection. And also don't limit your network to just the University of Florida, because a lot of the times, especially like we said with toxic involvement culture, they made it feel like UF is where you need to spend your entire time, and that you need to put so much involvement in your time here at UF. But you need to realize that your time at UF is limited, but you need to see where your life is going to be outside of that university, and being able to like create a network that will go beyond those 4 or 5 years that you're there.
I literally couldn't agree more with what was just said. Like my job right after undergrad UF got me there, like as being a student at UF got me through the door, but my network by the time I was a junior was students across like all of the SEC schools, across like the Northeast and things like that, because I, through HSA, was like randomly recruited to be a part of this like policy, like student development thing for the organization that I ended up working for after graduation. And like, yes, UF got me through the door, but the people that got me my job and the people that were like helping me get there had nothing to do with UF. So I would say like use UF as like your leverage, like what gets you to like the special circles that you want to be a part of. But then once you get there, you need to expand and you need to like get out of the UF bubble mentality, because it ends as soon as you walk the stage. Like you're done with HSA, you're done with La Casita, you're done with student government, like, and what now, you know? Like I'm telling you the truth, because that was really hard for me when I graduated. I was like, wait, what now? So really like try to use your time here like very wisely, and try to, you know, if someone tells you, hey, we're doing a trip to Washington, D.C. with this organization, man, research the organization, but go. Like just go, because you're going to start talking to people outside of UF that are going to expand your network. And who knows who will interview you one day that'll see you and be like, oh, you know this person? Like, I don't know, you guys, like I have no connection on the Hill. And when I graduated, I applied to maybe like, there's 500 and how many people that work there, representatives and senators. I'm pretty sure I applied to like half of them. And I got maybe like 2 interviews. And the one job offer I got was because the organization that had recruited me in undergrad, someone, I don't know who, put my resume forward, and that's how it happened. So I don't know. I really think Brian's advice is like incredible, and I'm attesting to the fact that it's true, because that's how I got all my jobs.
I absolutely love that. I see Eddie went off mute. You can go too.
Yeah. Something I did while I was a student. They have Career Showcase. It's one of the biggest and most daunting recruitment events on campus, right? My thinking was like, well, for one, I hate suits. I hate like dressing up in that way. I don't think it's necessary, and like it's too archaic to still be around. But that's a whole nother conversation. What I did instead was like I volunteered to work the event as like a helper, to help the recruiters like navigate the space, help students like find the things they needed to find. But the reason I did that was because I would be able to still have time to talk to recruiters, but without any of the pressure to like get a job, because they know I'm working the event. Not only that, it's usually the same recruiters that come to the showcase constantly. So it was a way of me to build rapport with some of those recruiters and some of those companies, so that when the time did come, let's say, and I wanted to come buttoned up or just wanted to come say hi and like actually talk about opportunities, they've seen my face multiple times. We've had like small conversation and whatnot. And generally the first impression was a positive one, which would make the conversation about recruiting and everything way easier, because they're not talking to somebody who just stepped up next in line, like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm trying to get a job. Can you help me? So that's one thing I did while I was on campus. Outside of that, I did seek out like resources from the career development office or organization. They have some really good stuff, but I would say kind of like practicing / drilling yourself for those interview moments is probably the most helpful thing you can do, because everybody can have stuff on their resume, and like being at UF, I have no doubt that your resume is going to have some good stuff on it. The issue is like selling it and making such an impression that you are unforgettable in the interview itself. So be unforgettable, be strategic, and understand that like the impressions that you get with these people who control the hire decision is the impressions that matter most. And so like try to navigate that space accordingly, get conversations and show that you're driven. I do have to jump, but thank you guys so much for entertaining me and having me. If you don't have my info, I'll send it over to Caricia. Is that how you say it? Caricia, yeah, and Valeria as well. IG, LinkedIn, all that stuff. If you have questions, feel free to hit me up or email me. Happy to answer anything that you have on your mind.
Yeah, so thank you so much to all four of you for speaking to us. I did notice a last minute question from someone in the chat is how much is getting a job depends on the name of the university. Briefly, based on what everyone's faces on the panel, I'm assuming it doesn't really have an impact. And then personally speaking from experiences, I've had 4 internships and none of them were really related to me being at UF at all. It was all based on my network. Just like how everyone on the panel said, your network is your net worth. That's how you get your foot in the door. Yeah, the fact that you're a student and yeah, okay, you go to UF, but that's not everything. It's the people you know and the connections you made. So just to answer Raul's question in the chat really quickly. But I know we're wrapping up and everyone has to leave. So thank you so much for everyone on the panel and everyone in the room, if you could give a round of applause. We really, really appreciated all of you speaking and giving your insight. And wait, I'm trying to read your messages in the chat, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying in regards to like your university affiliation, getting you a job, at most, it's going to get the recruiter to look at it for maybe like 5 extra seconds. It's not going to make or break anything. And that's only if the recruiter has some sort of personal connection to the institution. So thank you so much to our wonderful panelists. You're all great students. I have to do a survey because we love assessment, and I have a QR code and a link, which will let me know if I did a good job. So if you could all pull out your phones, and let me go ahead and share my screen so you can scan this. Alrighty. If you all want to scan this code, fill it out, and then I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat box as well.
Why does that keep happening? Sorry, we can't hear you. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay, repeat that again.
All right, if y'all want to scan the code that is here for the QR code, this is going to be the feedback survey for the event. So just let us know what you thought of it, how your experience was, and if you have any recommendations or things that you liked moving forward. So I don't know if everyone's gotten the chance to,
Yeah, it looks like everyone's scanned it from what I can see.
perfect, great. So that being said, I will go ahead and collect contact info for the panelists and send it to Caricia, and she could connect you all. Definitely try to take advantage of the fact that these folks are recent alumni. They're some of my favorite people in the whole world. And I like to think that I've met a lot of people for better or for worse, but this crowd is definitely one of my faves. So definitely, use them as resources, whether or not you're in that field, because they're also just great folks to have as mentors, as friends, and who knows, maybe 5 years from now, they're going to be the ones who are the hiring managers for a specific organization or group, and they're going to remember you from this panel. You laugh, but that's literally how it goes.
Yeah, I really appreciate
Wait, yeah, hold on, that's true. The lady that interviewed me for my firm spoke at my La Casita graduation, you guys. Like, I'm serious.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'll just briefly say, I know all of us in here were definitely like all nodding or like, yeah, that really hit. Like, so I really appreciate all of you speaking. And then for everyone in the room and for the panelists, this is